Welcome to the VCU-ACE video series, From Breakfast to Bedtime. Families often struggle with understanding the importance of daily routines and understanding the sheer amount of learning that happens throughout the day. In this video, we'll help families understand what their young child is learning through something as simple as everyday waking up routines. So let's think about this for a second. What actually happens in a family's wake-up routine with their child? First, parents and caregivers tend to come into their child's room to quietly wake them up at about the same time every day. Let's say in this example that a family comes into their child's room at about 6 a.m. every morning. Then the parents or caregivers might turn on a light, sit down beside the child, and quietly say, "Good morning." When the child opens their eyes, a parent or caregiver leans down and gives a quick kiss on the forehead before saying, "It's time to wake up." A young child might blink a few times and stretch to shake the cobwebs off, and then might reach out to their parent or caregiver for a hug or to be picked up and comforted. I'm sure this all sounds very familiar to many families, and some of you might be thinking, yes, that's pretty much more or less what happens in our home too. You might also be thinking, but what is a child really learning throughout this short interaction? Or you might be thinking, but it's such a small thing. How can any learning in this interaction really be all that meaningful? Let's break down all the potential learning that happens when families wake their children up each morning. First, every pediatrician on the planet can vouch for the health and developmental benefits of a regular sleep-wake cycle. This is why so many families are encouraged to keep their daily wake times, even on the weekends. Regular sleep and wake times are good for a child's overall health, but they are also good for supporting regulation that goes beyond just the first few minutes of waking up to support a child's self-regulation throughout the day. When parents and caregivers wake their child at the same time every morning, it also builds a regular routine and provides a sense of safety and security. Every morning, parents and caregivers arrive at the same time and provide the same reassuring and positive start to the child's day. What about the nature of the interaction between a parent and child during these quiet morning routines? The foundation of a child's learning and development is centered on something called serve and return. Serve and return refers to the back and forth nature to the interactions between parents or caregivers and their child. Back and forth interactions can include conversations, but can also include interactions that are based solely on body language. For example, in a morning routine, a parent comes into the room and says, "Good morning." They probably wait a few seconds for the child to stir. Next, the parent sits on the bed and maybe says good morning again and waits for the child to wake up and respond. Some children might say "Hi, Mama" or "Hi, Daddy" in return. Other children might not be speaking yet and might offer a smile or even a frown if they aren't happy about having to get up. The parent then responds to that hi or that smile or even that frown with perhaps a smile and a quiet, "It's time to wake up." The child might reach out for a hug or to be picked up. The parent responds by hugging or picking up the child. Do you see the back and forth nature of this simple interaction? This back and forth, or serve and return, might seem simple, but the importance of these reciprocal interactions are so critical to a child's development. If we break down these back and forth interactions even further, what other learning do we find? First, the parent is modeling communication by saying good morning. For children who use sign language, pictures, or communication devices to communicate, a parent can model the sign for good morning, point to a picture of the sun and say good morning, or push the button on a device that says good morning and then wait for the child to respond. When a parent smiles or uses an exaggerated face, they are modeling a wide variety of facial expressions or nonverbal communication. Then, when a child reaches out for a hug or to be picked up and comforted, the family is providing a natural consequence. By following through with that interaction, a parent or caregiver is acknowledging that the child is using body language to ask for comfort and reinforcing that with a hug or by picking up the child. In some ways, the flow of the morning routine is a child's first exposure to a first-then type of schedule. In other words, first I might do something that I don't really like, but it will be followed with something I enjoy. In this morning routine, first the child is woken up, but then is provided with smiles and hugs for comfort. As you can see, young children learn a lot from these very brief and simple morning wake-up routines. Some tips for parents and caregivers include: be positive. This is the first step in a long day for a young child, and starting with a soft voice and a smile can go a long way to helping a child feel ready to face the world. Some children might need to transition slowly from sleep to waking, and might do better with small adjustments to the lighting in the room by simply opening the curtains or blinds. Continue to use that back and forth style of interacting with a child, even if they aren't able to speak just yet, and be an active part of the conversation. Remember, facial expressions like smiles or frowns, or body language like holding up arms to be picked up, are still really important forms of communication, and you'll want to respond to these as easily as you do to a conversation. For more information about what children learn through routines, check out all the other videos in our From Breakfast to Bedtime series at www.vcuautismcenter.org/earlychildhood.